Fear is one of the most powerful forces in our lives, yet it is one of the most misunderstood. People think fear is something outside of themselves, something that happens to them, a sudden wave of panic or doubt that comes uninvited. But the truth is, fear is rarely external. Fear lives inside us. It is a construct of the mind, a story we tell ourselves about what could go wrong, what might fail, what might hurt us. And the irony is, most of the time, the story is much worse than reality. The imagined risks, the imagined disasters, they hold us back far more than the actual obstacles ever could. When I look at people who have achieved extraordinary things, one thing is always clear: they did not live in a world without fear. They felt it, they acknowledged it, and yet they refused to let it dictate their actions. Fear is not a sign that you are weak. Fear is a sign that you are alive, that you are on the edge of something meaningful. It is a signal that what you are about to do matters. And yet, so often, we respond to fear by retreating, by avoiding, by settling for comfort. The moment we allow fear to control our choices, we begin a slow erosion of our potential. Philosophically, fear has always fascinated humans. Stoic philosophers spoke of fear as a chain, an attachment to imagined future pain, and they taught that freedom comes when we confront it directly. Eastern philosophies often describe fear as an illusion of the mind, a shadow cast by attachment and desire. Modern psychology confirms what these ancient thinkers understood intuitively: fear thrives on uncertainty, on speculation, on the stories we tell ourselves about what if. The mind exaggerates, catastrophizes, and convinces us that the risk is insurmountable. Recognizing fear for what it truly is, a product of thought, not reality, is the first step toward victory. But understanding fear intellectually is not enough. Awareness must lead to action. Fear is like a locked door. Understanding that the lock exists is important, but the lock does not open on its own. You must turn the key. And that key is courage. Not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward despite it. Every act of bravery begins as a small confrontation with the stories our minds have created. When we challenge ourselves to take one step, even a tiny step, toward what we fear, we start to see that the walls we imagined are thinner than we believed. Consider the entrepreneurs, the innovators, the leaders who changed the world. They were not fearless. Jack Ma himself failed many times, faced countless rejections, and was told repeatedly that his ideas would not work. But he refused to let those fears define him. Each setback became a lesson, each doubt an invitation to persevere. The common thread is not absence of fear, it is mastery over it. When we face fear, we gain clarity. We see what truly matters, we recognize the limits imposed by our own minds, and we discover a strength we did not know existed. In daily life, fear manifests in subtle ways. Fear of failure keeps talented people in jobs they do not love. Fear of judgment silences voices that could inspire millions. Fear of uncertainty keeps us from taking risks that could transform our lives. And yet, if we pause for a moment, we realize that the greatest victories, those that leave a mark on the world, are always on the other side of that fear. The more we resist it, the stronger it grows. The more we confront it, the weaker it becomes. So, how do we begin? We start by noticing our fear, naming it, and understanding the story it is telling us. We examine whether the story is real or imagined. Then we take action, small, deliberate, and consistent. Each step is a victory, and each victory chips away at the power of fear. Over time, what once seemed impossible becomes ordinary. What once paralyzed us becomes a stepping stone. Fear is not an enemy, it is a teacher, a guide showing us where our courage and our growth are waiting. Remember this: fear may signal danger, but more often, it signals opportunity. If you never feel afraid, you may never be pushing yourself far enough. If fear is present, you are on the threshold of something that could change you, and maybe even change the world. Victory does not lie in the absence of fear, it lies beyond it. And every time you step past that fear, you claim a part of yourself that you did not know existed. So, I ask you to reflect on this the next time fear knocks at your door. Do not run. Do not hide. Look at it, understand it, and then step forward anyway, because beyond that fear, your potential is waiting, your courage is waiting, and your victory is waiting. Courage is a word we often misunderstand. We think courage means you are fearless, that you charge into life with no hesitation, no doubt, no uncertainty. But that is not true. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in the presence of fear. It is doing what you know is right, what you know is necessary, even when your heart is pounding and your mind is screaming reasons to quit. Every courageous act begins with a decision to move forward despite the fear, to refuse to let the story your mind tells you about what could go wrong dictate the story you will tell the world about what you did anyway. Think about the small acts of courage in life. They may seem insignificant at the moment. Speaking up in a meeting, trying something new that might fail, admitting a mistake, taking a risk others would avoid. These are not headlines in the news, but they are the building blocks of resilience and growth. Courage is cumulative. Every small act strengthens the muscle of courage, preparing you for the larger challenges that inevitably come. Just as physical strength is built through repeated effort, courage is built through repeated action. The first step is always the hardest. But once you take it, each following step becomes easier, and your confidence grows in ways that are invisible to those watching from the outside. Psychologically, action is the antidote to fear. Fear lives in the imagination, in the what-ifs that our mind generates. It thrives in waiting, in hesitation, in the endless cycle of overthinking. But when you act, when you move your body, make a decision, speak your truth, or take a risk, the power of fear begins to shrink. Action transforms fear from a paralyzing force into a teacher, revealing your limits, your strengths, and the areas where you can grow. Courage is practical. It is not an abstract concept. It is the bridge between desire and achievement, between what you dream and what you accomplish. Courage also requires perspective. Most people fear failure because they equate it with personal inadequacy. They fear judgment because they think it defines their worth. But history and experience show us that courage is not about avoiding failure, it is about reframing failure as feedback. Every setback, every mistake, every no you encounter is not a mark of weakness. It is information, a guide that shows you what to adjust, where to improve, and how to move forward. The most successful people are not those who avoided failure, they are those who dared to face it, to learn from it, and to act again with greater clarity and determination. Philosophically, courage has always been a defining feature of human progress. Societies, communities, and civilizations advance because individuals dared to challenge the status quo, to dream beyond convention, and to act despite fear. Courage creates momentum. One person's decision to step forward inspires another. One bold action creates a ripple, multiplying influence and effect in ways that cannot always be predicted. Courage is contagious. When you embrace it, you not only move yourself forward, you move those around you, creating a culture of action, a network of possibility. The beauty of courage is that it does not have to be monumental. You do not need to climb mountains or start empires to demonstrate it. Everyday courage, the courage to speak, to try, to persist, is just as powerful. In fact, it is often more transformative because it is sustainable. Courage becomes a habit. With habit, it becomes part of your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who faces challenges rather than someone who avoids them. And once this mindset takes root, fear becomes less of a barrier and more of a compass pointing toward areas of meaningful growth. So, how do we cultivate this courage? Start small. Choose one thing you have been avoiding, one decision you have postponed, one conversation you have feared. Take action. Notice how it feels. Learn from it, then take another step. Courage is built in layers. Each act, each choice, each decision chips away at the illusion that fear can control your life. And over time, you will find that you can handle situations you once thought impossible. Remember, this courage is not reserved for heroes. It is available to anyone willing to act, willing to step into uncertainty, willing to transform fear into forward motion. Every decision to act in the presence of fear is a victory. Every choice to confront the unknown strengthens your spirit. Victory is not in being unafraid, it is in choosing to move forward anyway. So, when you feel the weight of fear pressing on your shoulders, do not wait for it to disappear. Do not hope for certainty. Take a step, then another. Let action become your compass. Because courage is not a gift given to a few, it is a skill developed by those who decide that moving forward matters more than standing still. And when you act with courage, you discover something extraordinary. The path to victory is not found by avoiding fear, it is created by walking through it. Fear, as we have explored, is not something to be ashamed of. It is a signal, a guidepost, a mirror showing us where our courage and potential lie. But there is a deeper truth. Fear is also a catalyst. It is a force that, when confronted, transforms not only our actions but our very selves. The challenges that scare us most often hold the greatest opportunity for growth, for insight, for achievement. If we learn to treat fear not as a wall but as a gateway, we begin to see that what lies beyond it is more than just accomplishment. It is transformation. Think of the moments in your life when you felt the heaviest fear. Perhaps it was a career decision, a personal risk, or stepping into an unknown environment. At that moment, fear seemed like a weight too heavy to lift, a voice too loud to ignore. Yet, in retrospect, those moments are often the ones we remember most vividly, the ones that change the trajectory of our lives. Fear is paradoxical in this way. It feels threatening in the present, but it is often the doorway to our most profound breakthroughs. Philosophers and psychologists alike recognize this pattern. Growth occurs at the edge of discomfort. Transformation occurs when we take the unknown into our hands and walk forward, step by step. Victory beyond fear is not merely about external success, it is about internal evolution. Each time we face fear, we learn something essential about ourselves. We discover resilience we did not know we possessed. We find clarity in confusion. We gain confidence not because the world has changed, but because we have changed. The mind learns from action more than from thought alone. Every challenge faced, every risk taken, every moment we step into uncertainty becomes a lesson in our capacity to endure, adapt, and create. Fear, in this sense, is a teacher, harsh, relentless, but profoundly effective. Look at the people who have inspired history. They were not fearless. They felt doubt, hesitation, even terror. What distinguished them was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to confront it repeatedly, to let fear refine them rather than define them. Fear becomes a tool when we learn to channel it. It becomes a measure of where growth is possible. The greater the fear, the greater the potential for expansion. If we are willing to act, it is as if the universe presents us with a signal. This is important. This is where you will grow. This is where your victory lies. In practical terms, this means embracing fear as a necessary companion on the journey toward achievement. Avoiding fear is tempting, of course. It is comfortable. It is safe. But comfort never leads to greatness. Risk, uncertainty, and fear are inseparable from meaningful progress. Every innovation, every breakthrough, every transformation is rooted in the courage to engage with fear rather than hide from it. And every time we engage, we expand the horizon of what is possible, not just in our careers or ambitions, but in the way we think, feel, and live. Philosophically, This aligns with the idea that life is not a path to certainty, but a process of mastery. We do not conquer fear once and for all. We confront it repeatedly, learning each time, growing each time, evolving each time. Victory is cumulative. It is built on countless decisions to act despite uncertainty, countless moments in which we choose the possibility of growth over the comfort of stagnation. Fear signals that these moments are coming. It marks the threshold of transformation. So how do we harness fear as a catalyst rather than a barrier? First, we must recognize it as informative. Ask yourself, what is fear trying to teach me? What is it showing me about my desires, my limits, my untapped potential? Then we act. Small actions, repeated consistently, chip away at the dominance of fear. Over time, fear becomes less a master and more a guide. It highlights the areas where we must summon courage, creativity, and persistence. And as we step forward, moment by moment, we notice something remarkable. Fear no longer restricts us. Instead, it propels us toward achievement, toward understanding, toward victory. Victory beyond fear is not simply an endpoint. It is a process. It is a life lived with awareness, courage, and deliberate action. Every time we engage with fear, we strengthen our capacity to thrive, to innovate, and to inspire. Fear is not the opposite of victory. It is the pathway. The more we face it, the clearer that pathway becomes. So I leave you with this. Do not shrink from fear. Do not wish it away. Look at it, understand it, and step through it. The challenges that scare you most are the ones that will teach you most. The risks that feel impossible are the ones that will define you. Beyond fear lies your growth, your strength, your achievement. Beyond fear lies victory, and every step you take toward it is a step toward becoming the person you were always capable of being.